I almost wore my red shirt.
Replay's alive.
Go on. We're on now. Hello, hello, hello. Okay, folks. The clock is striking 5. And of course, our meetings are all so short and trim that we know we'll be gone in 17 minutes, but good chance we might want to start on time. So welcome, everyone. Reminder to me and everyone else, we turn off our phones. Tuck it away. Okay, so I guess I get to call the meeting to order. Is that appropriate? And could we have a roll call? Richie's outside getting his glasses. He's right. He just ran out for a minute.
All right, I can call to, let's see, do the roll call. All right, so we have Carolyn Whiteman,
Here?
Ted Benbow,
Here.
Shannon Carey, Felina Davis,
Here.
Natasha Early. Here. David Epstein is not here. Christy Hughes, I believe, is on Zoom or will be very soon.
I'm here. I don't know if you can hear me.
Okay,
Great.
yes,
Hi,
thank you.
Christy. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, Joe is not here. Richard Russell, here he is, and John Weir. Okay.
Great. All right, we get to have a Pledge of Allegiance. Let's see. Who do we get to call upon? How about the manager? Would you be kind enough to lead us in the pledge? And now I would like to ask everyone to prepare a standing ovation as we go to the approval of the minutes, because these minutes are, I believe, 16 pages, single spaced, that have been put together by our magnificent scribe, Salisha. And I am absolutely stunned and grateful. And I think that, some kind of appreciation that cannot possibly happen as an instinct. You have put huge amounts into that. And what I will say is I have a yellow highlighter, which has been separated from my printed copy because my PDF I couldn't do things with. So I'm going to sign them and continue to go back and review because you have really done a great job. I mean, just magnificent. And thank you. That is like part of the partnering with our staff and with all of us who are participating. So thank you very much. So is there a motion to approve these magnificent minutes, or are there comments?
I have 2 corrections.
Okay, great.
So on page 1, Cheryl Culberson, you just misspelled her name, CULB. And on page 5, It's not mile marker 85, it's 95.
Based on those adjustments, I have a motion to approve.
Okay, Miss Selena, you get 14 gold stars too.
Thank you.
Thank you very much for picking those up. Great. Okay, here a motion to approve? Any objections?
Mm.
All right, we approve the minutes. I will sign these. Okay, now we move to emergency agenda, additions, deletions. Are there any things that get to be added before we get into the core of the meeting? Nothing yet. And thank you very much, Miss Maria and Annie, for all of the work that you guys do back up. So before we move into public comment, or maybe our first contributor public comment, I would like to ask the manager if he would be willing to be our first speaker, because if you look at our agenda does not specifically deal with the ball field, the multipurpose field, the baseball field. It does not specifically deal with artificial versus grass turf. That is not specifically a topic. However, we know that those are probably in the room and they're part of public comment. So I'd like to ask the manager if you would bring us up to date on anything that's gone on that will be helpful for us.
Thank you, Madam Chair, members of the committee. I'm Ron Saunders, Village Manager. I just want to just take a couple of minutes. I'm not going to take a long presentation, just to give an update. Obviously, I attended your last meeting. It was a very great meeting. Got a lot of good input there. Since then, I went to the Village Council and basically, Carolyn gave her report and I asked for direction. They said, keep going on the track you're on. I always like to point out that three of the council members are here today. We have Deb Gillis, Anna Richards, and Steve Friedman. I think they're the ones here right now. So they have been following this closely. Since the council meeting, I then had a baseball task force meeting with Alina was there. I went to the school board meeting on Tuesday. I've been out in the community listening to people, trying to get input as far as where we are. There was a survey done, not necessarily a scientific one, but it was a very interesting one that the mayor had us put together. And some of the questions were questionable. One thing that struck me at the meeting we had was that on the survey question about the concession stand, it was surprisingly pretty close. The question about the second building was overwhelmingly opposed by a lot of people, not just on the survey, but in the community, there's a lot of questions about why do we need that second building, et cetera. I went to the school board meeting and a question came up from Mindy Kahn, the chair, about a concession stand, and Pat LaFear, who appeared at most of these meetings, started talking about the building at the end of the first base line. She said, no, I mean the new one. Well, a lot of people said, what concession stand? Many people don't realize that they're at the end of the first base line, that yellow building, it has a concession stand and other things. What do you mean? So the next morning I asked Maria, do you have a key to that building? Yes. Went over there, and when I looked, I saw that the second building here has an emerged locker room, restrooms. When we opened the doors over there, we went through there, what I realized was almost everything in that second building, the one behind the third base dugout, if you don't have a copy, I'll give you a copy, could be placed in that building over there. That building goes back to 2001 original ILA, which I didn't realize until I started looking at it a couple weeks ago. The school district had agreed.
Just to clarify, ILA stands for the
Interlocal agreement.
interlocal agreement, just so we all get the link.
So when we were negotiating the new one several weeks ago, I was like, Pat, the school board was supposed to have built a concession stand and restrooms. I don't see them. They're there. Where? In that building at the end of the first baseline, first baseline. Really, it's been built. It's a solid building. So Maria took us through there. I had our building official meet me there today. It's in great shape, solid poured concrete. We went there. There already is a locker room. There's a concession room. We're not going to use for concessions, but for other things, storage, all the things that were in this second building could be placed over there. And we analyzed it. It's almost the exact square footage. Every square foot that was going to be in the new building can be placed in that building there. So my suggestion was, well, then if we can eliminate this building, then it opens up the space. The other thing I didn't like about the plan, which you have before you, was that the concession stand, which we agree should go there, can be moved from behind home plate, somewhere near the dugout, that we can vary that, because there were a lot of objections of why is the concession stand blocking home plate. Like when scouts come to look at a picture, they want to be sitting behind home plate. You can't even see home plate. The concession stand is right up against the fence. So I thought my suggestion was eliminate the second building, move all those functions to the building at the end of first base, and move the concession stand, restrooms, press box to somewhere on the third base line. As I always try to do, I always talk to my bosses first. And so I've individually spoken to the village council members, and they've said pretty much, you're our negotiator, throw it out there. I then spoke to all 5 school board members. And my point with them was if I could find you $1.5 million to $2 million in savings, would you be interested in talking to me? Let's just say they were all very interested in talking. And I said, because you started at 5 million a hold, not just a budget, it's already at 6 million. And that's just the buildings. Because I talked to Mr. LaFear. I said, can you give me more information about this artificial turf? We haven't started talking to the vendors yet. I said, really? So this cost increase has to be just the buildings then? Yeah. If it's 6 million now, it'll be 8 million in 2 years. We all know construction costs are going through the roof. I'd like to have that money put into the field, whatever it ends up being. So anyway, I've gotten some direction from the school district and our council to consider eliminating that second building, moving those functions to the third base line, to the first base line building, which you can see when you want to. Maria's agreed to give guided tours. I know that Ted's seen it. I'm not sure Carolyn has.
No, I have not.
But I've had 2 council people go through it. You're welcome to go through it. When you see it, you're going to be surprised how big that space is over there. It's going to need some work. And I think that the school district will probably agree to put some AC in there and get up to speed. But I think everything that we want to have over here on the field, as far as umpire changing, locker room, can be done over there. I talked to Pat LaFear. That was not a pleasant call because he said, you're changing. I said, we never agreed to anything. I said, I'm open to listening. I've listened, and my recommendation is that I'd like to move that building because I've had a lot of complaints from people in the audience about the too many buildings out there, et cetera. I think the public that I've talked to said, we love the baseball field for the most part. We'd like to have the best it can be. Still, whether it's grass or artificial, that's an ongoing issue. But we want as few buildings as possible. That was what I've heard. And so this is what I'm recommending. It's not official, but since you're the Parks and Recreation Committee, I wanted you all to be the first officially to hear my recommendation and see if you have any questions.
Excellent. Questions?
Yeah, so just full disclosure, I was over here yesterday, visiting with Maria and Annie, for some other issues that are coming for us, and just wanted to kind of have a printout of it so I could see what the suggestion was. And I had called Ron coming into the gate and said, hey, Ron, can I meet with you for a couple minutes? And right after my meeting with Maria, he'd called me up and said, hey, I'm meeting Maria over at storage area. Why don't you meet us over there? And then, so that's how I saw it. It wasn't like I was getting,
Oh, that's
getting
okay.
stayed before the rest of you. But I would recommend that everybody in this room, anybody who's interested in this, go take a look and see what we have over there. It's gonna be eye-opening. And I'll just leave it at that. And then, the other thing is the 2 meetings that we had, since we were talking about baseball right now, Mr. LaFleur in the meeting, he spoke with us, said one way, said we had to have this field. Everybody was telling us the field was a third world field and not very good and all this. And then in the next meeting with the task force, he says, and I was here and you were here, and he said that, no, we're gonna have the field up to par and all that by the time the next season starts. And I'm thinking, well, wait a minute. Why isn't it up to par now? Why isn't that locker room that no one knew about? And that's my other complaint, and no disrespect to my 2 coaches, Tony and Richie, but why did Mr. LaFleur tell us that this building was there with all this stuff? I come to this park all the time. I had no idea. I just thought it was 2 bathrooms. I had no idea. Didn't know it was a concession stand. And I don't understand why things are like that sometimes. I want to do the best job I can do as a committee member, but I want to know everything. I don't want stuff to be omitted. And that's exactly what happened here. So
Can I make a comment too? I don't mean to cast any aspersions on anybody, what's happened in the past. we're moving forward. We're all on the same side here. We want what's best for the village, for Founders Park, and Coral Shores High School baseball. So I don't want to get into a back and forth, but you did point out one other thing I want to bring up. I've also said that I think there's been a lot of confusion about who's responsible for that field. Because is it the district? Is it the village? Is it during season, off season? The other recommendation I'll be making is that 100% responsibility for maintenance of that field will be the school district. Because I don't want our people out there who, especially when there's allegations about condition of the field, from now on, condition of the fields would be under my proposal, 100% school district. They have qualified people that know about the grass fields. If they do artificial, we definitely don't want to be in charge of that. So I was like, we'll just stay off the field because Maria has people who can do other things, but I don't want the village to be responsible for that ball field. And the other question that came up at the task force was, what happens at the end of the useful life? And the question, I think Jamie actually brought up, there's another task force member here, is replacement of the field maintenance? And Pat said, no, that's actually capital expense. But we're not sure who's going to pay for it. Well, I'm sure who's going to pay for it. School district. That's going to be in the written agreement that will have to be approved by the village council and the school board. But if they want the field, which they do, they need to be responsible for the maintenance, 12 months a year, not 5. And when it does expire, they will be responsible for replacing it and putting whatever else goes in there. Whether it's grass or artificial, doesn't matter to me, because I want the responsibility to be very fixed. The responsibility for the field will be the school district. Now, but once again, we're just saying that as the owner. They have to agree to all this. So it's going to go to the school board again, I think October 7th. And if, I think there'll be a proposal, let's just say, our council has a meeting, but not for this. I'm not putting anything on the September agenda. It'll be that we have, I think, also on October 7th and then a 9th. And so we need to do any approvals for any of this stuff. That's when I would put
October
it on.
7th and 9th?
Yeah, the village council has a regular meeting on the 7th, land use on this October.
Okay,
We have a meeting in September, that's mainly budget. I don't want to get the budget involved in this stuff.
okay.
And so what I'm saying, if everybody wants a timetable, and my timetable would be, we get through our budget cycle with the council, which is September 16th is our last budget hearing. And so in October, I would plan on having an update on the baseball field on the 7th, the same day as the school board. So let's assume for argument's sake, we reach an agreement between staff that, because I got some pushback, let's just say from the district staff, but I think the bosses are saying, we like this idea. I'll leave it at that.
Stay there for a minute, if you would, Ron. I want to remind us on the committee and everyone that when we did our last Parks and Rec meeting, which was last month, we limited our topics to 2 things, specifically at the request and the consultation with the manager. The first issue was that we gave general support to the manager for having done the preliminary ILA, interlocal agreement, but already to give you the authority to begin to get the details. But you asked us for concurrence that this interlocal agreement would be reaffirmed because it has kind of fallen through the cracks over the past. So that was our first topic. The second topic is you asked us for some guidance on the general recommendations of artificial versus grass. And based on the information that was given to us and provided, which was not a formal presentation of some vendor talking about it, we made our recommendation, gave that to the council. Now, that decision regarding artificial versus grass will be continued, I presume, in the presentation that's being done today with Miller Legg and what else may be done. But what you're saying is that has not been firmly decided. However, the emphasis or the momentum is in the direction of artificial because that's the way it was presented by the school board. And that's been so far 7-1 suggested by us, and it's gone to the council. Now, did I say that correctly?
To be clear, what's been before everybody at this point has been clearly labeled preliminary design plan. mean, it's not the final design plan. Obviously, if I want to make changes to it, it's not final. The discussion on turf, the school district board officially voted to approve the plan as presented to them, which did include artificial. I did not ask the council for an official vote. I just asked for direction to go on this line. But as of today, my direction has been to follow the school board as on the turf issue. It's artificial as of today. That's the policy that I thought was official, maybe not official, but Pat LaFleur had said to me, going forward, all the ball fields in the county will be artificial turf. If that changes, but that was my understanding. And it was kind of a take it or leave it situation. If you want that ball field done, it's going to be artificial. If that's not their policy, that's a different story. But that was what I was led to believe. And I'm not a big fan either way. If you want to do grass, do grass. You want to do artificial? Because if the school board's maintaining it 100%, then fine. Because it costs thousands of dollars. I agree with all the experts to have a real grass field out there. You better spend a lot of money to maintain it, which we haven't been doing. I mean, they've done a great job, but that's part of the problem of the field. A grass field needs a lot of maintenance, a lot of water, fertilize the right way. Fine. If it's artificial, that's a different set of maintenance, which we don't know about either. So once again, I want 100% of the maintenance of the field to be the school districts. I want 100% of any replacement be the school district. We're not put a penny. The other came up, well, how much of the shortfall, when it was a shortfall, it may not be now, how much the village is going to put up? Nothing. Zero. Just to be real clear, because I've been hearing that rumor. No, I'm not recommending a penny. We are the owners of the field on behalf of the citizens of Alamorada. Our contribution is the use of the field. Their contribution is X million dollars, whatever it ends up being. But I'm not expecting to put a penny in. Just so we're all, I can say it 10 times. I'm not planning to recommend a penny put in. Okay, if you're not
That
clear.
one of the things that have not been considered, we're only looking at the baseball field during baseball season. Yes, the school board is going to pay for maintenance the rest of the year, but Maria, Annie, at what time of the year are those fields mostly used during, yes, during the school year, they have, you're using these other fields a lot, but I know that you run a lot of camps as well during the summer. Do those go over to the baseball field?
Well, our camps that we put on,
Mhm.
they primarily use our field over here, the multi-purpose. field.
Okay, because as I understand that they get much hotter. Artificial turf gets much hotter than grass or even asphalt when we have these lovely summer days. So that would be a concern to me that, the kids who might be using the field other than during baseball season are going to have to stay off of it because it's so hot.
And can I, for a second, I
Mhm.
really did not mean to kind of get off the track on your meeting. This wasn't on the agenda. I wanted to get this update to you. The grass versus artificial will, no matter whether we want to or not, will continue to be a discussion item. I need more information about what type of turf. All the questions you're asking are great questions, but for today's purposes, Maria did, I don't know if you've seen this, but if not, she'll get it to you. She put together the activities that go on the field outside of baseball from June to December,
Mhm.
soccer, lacrosse, youth flag football, et cetera. So that's out there. She also put together, I think because of maybe you or Jamie, the costs that we've incurred. And it talks, I think Jamie brought it up about the $15,000 and staff labor wages. Those are all valid issues. And that's why, as the manager who has authorization over the village staff, my position is going to be, I don't want us spending any more money on maintenance of that field because there's been issues about who's in charge, who's not. I want the school district to be 100% in charge of that field. And we may have to talk about some cost sharing, et cetera, which are not there yet. But I'm saying I don't want us to be on that field.
Well, I only brought it up because I heard you say that it's all or nothing, that they're going to take their baseball and take it home if we don't agree to artificial turf. I believe that's what you said, Ron. Sorry
What I said
if I
was,
misunderstood.
no, I want to be very clear. What my understanding was from the first start, remember, I've been here for 4 months, I've been the manager for 4 months. I got into the baseball thing kind of late. My understanding from private and public meetings was the school district's position was going forward, artificial turf is what they want to do. Okay? Now, whether it's a take it or leave it, that's been subject to interpretation, because truthfully, that decision is not Mr. LaFear, it's the school board. Just like my decisions aren't my decisions, it's my village council. All I do is make recommendations. So I don't, just because Mr. LaFear might have said something, I'm not saying that's the official school board position. I'm just saying I've heard that said. Now, whether it's true or not true, that's up to the school board. So I don't want you to say that it's a take it or leave it. I'm just saying people have told me that was their interpretation too. Not that it's true or not true. I'm assuming we're moving forward. When we want that field improved. School board wants it improved. They want to help the village. They want to help the citizens of Alamorada, put some money in that field. Wonderful. We want as many dollars as you can put in that field as possible. My only concern was that second building that a lot of the public had told me they don't want it there. And I said, if we can move it down 100 yards, do all the functions that was in that building, then we're not giving up anything. We're saving taxpayer dollars. I'm a taxpayer for the school board too. And if I can get them under their budget, why wouldn't they want to do that? So, but I don't want to, once you get into he said, all I'm saying is I think this is a good recommendation. I want to give an update, but it's still fluid because until the school board officially votes on a final plan and my council votes on a final plan, it's not a final plan. Any other, I didn't mean to take away from your rest.
No,
of your-
no, I asked for that on our behalf because I know that's in the room and that's very helpful. Are there comments from any of the other committee or questions?
And I'll stick around for the rest of the meeting. I want to hear the Miller Legs presentation, which, and I want to hear about your park fees. And by the way, I wholeheartedly endorse whatever Maria wants.
Thank you very much.
Let me make
Matt.
one comment real quick, and I'm not prepared, obviously, to talk about the proposal. We've worked a long time in another direction, but I understand things change. But regarding the $5 million, that was appropriated, that's just a figure that's picked out of, by way of example, Tommy Roberts, the figure they picked out of the air was 15 million, and that's now at 23 million, and that's not even adjusted for inflation. So I just want to make sure that you understood that when we went from 5 to 6.2, that's not a change order. That was just, okay, our projections were wrong and we've got to that's it. Thank you. Ron, you got a tough job, buddy.
Yeah.
God bless you.
And let me see if I'm summarizing what you're saying, Ron, for our benefit. What I'm hearing is that, first of all, we don't have 100% clarity that it's take it or leave it, artificial versus grass. We don't have that. We have a general direction. And what I'm hearing is the general direction is artificial. But what I'm also hearing is there are about 4 or 5 or 6 different questions about artificial that I don't think we have ever seen an official presentation on. We've seen lots of good experiences from people like, is it Doug? And, all the conversations that we've had, which have led us in the direction, I say us, meaning all of us, in the direction of saying 7-1 that we would support the idea of artificial. It's not our response. It's not our job. We made that recommendation. We made that comment that this was our general guideline, but we have never seen anything that goes through actual cost of replacement. How hot is it? What is underneath it? Do you need different kinds of shoes? What are the safety issues? What are the cost issues? What are the maintenance issues? And, 5 months of the year versus 12 months of the year. I don't think we've ever actually seen those things proposed to us.
Because they're not there yet. And I think
That's
that's
right.
the point I'm trying to make is that people talk about AstroTurf. That's like saying, I used to have a BlackBerry. Now we have iPhones, but there are different types of iPhones.
Right.
Is it a 16, a 14, whatever? So just because they're saying artificial turf, I don't know what that means. I know what it means. I don't know what that actually means though, because Alina and Jamie have been great about doing their research. They keep asking me questions. I keep saying, I don't know. You asked about the heat. I asked Pat LaFear that specifically. I said, how do I answer my task force's questions? He said, we haven't even talked to the vendor yet, which is fine. That means I can't answer the questions. At a certain point in time, it's time to fish or cut bait. They're gonna have to come before you guys, the council, the school board, and say, here's the type of turf we're talking about. Here's all the questions that you've asked, and here are the answers. The problem is you can't give an answer because you haven't decided which turf to use, because you can't just say turf. It's like saying iPhone. Which iPhone, which kind of turf? That's the problem we're running into. But to Pat's credit, he's doing the steps and he's doing what he needs to do. My problem was I can't answer questions that have good questions without knowing which turf you're going to have. He's going to get to it when he gets to it. I cannot force him to say, I want your answer next week. He's got his schedule. Keep your schedule. My only concern was I did not want to do anything from the village's standpoint to delay this renovation. And I feel confident that deleting a building, moving a planned building 30 feet away from home base and using the existing building should not be a significant delay. If it is, we'll take a look at it. I can't believe that that would be that much of a delay. But the artificial turf, I'm going to keep on that every week. If there's a change, I'll bring it to you because I want to know what specific artificial turf are you talking about and answer all the great questions you're asked about the substrate, the runoff, the heat, the injury patterns that the doc talked about, the type of cleats that should be on there. All those are great things, but until you have the specific turf that you've negotiated with for the school district, not us, then bring it before you guys and us and say, okay, here's what we're really talking about. At that point, you may say, that's not what we thought. But Doc had he brought the cleats out because he was talking about artificial turf, but he's talking generically. Until we know the exact turf they're talking about, and it changes every day. There's a new generation every week. So maybe in 6 weeks, we'll be talking about a whole different type of turf. I don't know.
Actually, your phone analogy is probably very apt. It changes every week.
Yeah.
And, whether it's an iPhone or a Android, let alone BlackBerry. So I think that's a very apt analogy. Yes.
I just wanted to say thank you very much for your genuinely informative update. I appreciate your diligence in keeping us informed and look forward to hearing more from you in the future. I think you've done a great job, and I propose that we move on with public comment and hearing about the Leg Miller plan, which is the main reason we're here. Thank you.
I think that's great, Steve. So is that clear for everyone? I think just in summary, in order to support the council that is going to make the final decision, right now I'm talking about artificial versus grass. In order to support the council, there will be continued opportunities to get more and more and more specific about what the options are and also about what the ramifications are of whatever the choices are. Is that a fair way to say it?
It's a fair way to say it. And before I leave, once again, I want to point out that we have Councilperson Deb Gillis, Councilperson Anna Richards, and Councilperson Steve Friedman. A majority of the village council are sitting right here listening to you. When I hear like, you're not listening to the public, guess what? Here they are. And so I want you to know that we are listening, everybody, including the council, and your input has been very good. It will continue to be good. And I want to hear Miller Lake, so I'll sit down again.
Great. Thank you very much, Ron. Okay, we get to continue then with our presentation. So are we doing this online or? There you are.
Yep.
I'm sorry. Okay, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Yes.
All right. Can everybody hear me? Okay. So are we doing the presentation or are we doing public comments first?
I think that I'm mistaken. I think we do public comment first and then thank you for being here. Okay. Is there someone who's monitoring public comment?
Yes.
Okay.
We have a list. So the first one on the list is Captain Ed.
Okay.
Sandy, you're not. You crossed yourself off.
For the record, I am Captain Ed Davidson, Chairman of the IRS 501c3 Florida Case Citizens Coalition, and also a 4-year elected former member of the school board. The school system's conceptual plan for the $6 to $7 million bulldozer installed, artificial turf upholstered, multi-story, commercially proportioned, a little less so now, thank you. Intensified usage, more than a dozen additional sports programs and imported promotional and fundraising events. Despite all that, the school board has no remaining actual entitlement to build a stadium office complex that they totally defaulted on building 24 years ago, especially as the carrying capacity of this park has been used up since then by other parks' construction for the sheriff, for the fire and rescue, for other government functions, buildings subsequently erected since that stadium default occurred. It's crucial to remember that the ball field was originally intended only to support the Coral Shores High School program of about 13 afternoon games over 19 weeks for what is currently about 28 varsity and JV players. But turf advocate Ritchie has repeatedly stated he no longer refers to it as a ball field, but as a multi-sports facility, and further refers to more than a dozen new and expanded sports programs he intends to promote and host at the 300-plus seat AstroTurf Stadium / fundraising concession stand complex year-round. Ball coach Tony Hammond also has publicly referred to hosting, quote, all of the sports all of the time, end quote. This dramatically expanded high-density over-commercialization of our family nature park is the main rationalization for turning God's green grass ball field into a giant woven plastic rug that will allegedly wear better under such unprecedented heavy year-round usage, to which the school board has no legal entitlement, and to subsidize which at great expense the Islamorada taxpayers have no legal obligation. At the August 25 school board meeting, Operations Director LaFear did not report to the board any of the August Ball Field Advisory Committee extensive issues analysis and project design critique, which he personally witnessed. He didn't say a word about it to the school board. I was there watching on the tube, yeah. And he never spoke about the tax-paying public, only about staff, whose majority disapproval of aspects of the stadium and artificial turf proposals has been strongly reflected in several recent community surveys. At that school board meeting the next day on the 19th, member John Dick repeatedly expressed strong concerns that he could not be sure which party was going to pay for how much, most especially when it came time to replace the artificial turf in an assumed 8 to 10 years, which LaFear publicly and adamantly refused to discuss with the board. He refused to discuss it until later on, till years later on. I don't know how we get the commitment Ron's looking for, because guaranteeing there'll be a crisis when the plastic rug wears out, and then it'll be a real rodeo. Because the estimated cost, the best we can tell, is $750,000 to $1 million plus. But remember, that's 5 times in a 40-year span. 5 times somebody's going to pay for this. Since school board member Darren Horan stated adamantly at the 24 June 25 meeting that the village should contribute upwards of $2 million in current cost overruns, plus more later, and Chair Mindy Kahn stated at the 19 August meeting that she would demand expanded, year-round, more intensive ball field use entitlement, and she actually mentioned a 99-year lease. I've been saying for a long time, this is commandeering our family public nature park, and that's what it is. Most folks would call that a major impasse, not a done deal. This is especially so since at the 14 November 23 workshop, school board member Mindy Kahn previously asked pointedly
30 seconds
on the
remaining.
record, how much money is the village going to chip in? And absent that the school board should demand, quote, right to use first and foremost, unquote. This is a commercial exploitation plan for our family nature park. That's what it is.
Thank you. Other public comment?
Good afternoon, Jerry O'Cathy, concerned citizen. These are my reflections on the turf question. I wish I had more than 3 minutes. There's so much to cover. After attending many of our village community center parks and recreation basketball field specific meetings, I had the opportunity to attend along with Mr. Saunders and Pat LaFar, Director of Monroe County School Board Operations, last Tuesday's Monroe County School Board meeting at the Coral Shores High School. Some observations I came away with regarding the field use, i.e. the baseball field use agreement, Exhibit A. A given is notwithstanding Monday through Saturday tournaments and practice games, our field is designated for use for approximately 16 to 17 weeks. If the field, approximately 100,000 feet of it, were to remain as originally intended and exclusive of any separate and specific use agreements to the contrary, I would urge the village council to entertain, with regard to the previous 7-1 vote, a revote or referendum to allow reconsideration of that decision. My rationale is, number one, numerous medical confirmations that there is a direct correlation of higher incidence of athletic injuries associated with the use of artificial turf over natural grass, over that of natural grass. Number two, another consideration is that of pediatricians, epidemiologists, and that of Mount Sinai scientists. And their post-statement, children and young adults are uniquely vulnerable to harmful exposures to artificial turf surfaces. It further states this vulnerability persists throughout the teen years as reproductive and nervous systems continue to develop. My thanks to Alina Davis, Larry Zetwalk, and Jamie Engel, and other committee members for their insights and contributions to this. Proposed solutions with consideration in regard to the relatively short duration of yearly use, perhaps a step toward a remedy to this conundrum may be one of calculating a specific user fee of sorts to offset any additional user-caused damages to the field which would normally occur otherwise. My takeaways are, number one, it is the stated intention of the school board, and this is from the school board meeting at Coral Shores High School, to adhere,
30 seconds remaining.
their intention is to adhere to their objective of building none other than an AstroTurf ball field with school board funding. Their spending philosophy may well be that of investing as an AstroTurf-based economy of scale, i.e. all future fields built with Monroe County School Board funding to be artificial turf. Is that it? Well, the current fields and any resulting health concerns will remain for the expected turf lifetime of 10 to 12 years. Example provided by Pat LaFair, 6B Elementary School in Key West. Those making this decision will likely have long since retired without realizing the rewards, dangers, and disappointments of their decisions. And one more, but we'll put that up there with the bleachers.
Thank you very much.
Next on my list is Elizabeth Brown.
Is it on?
Yeah.
Okay. Hi, so I'm Elizabeth Brown. I'm here today in a capacity as just a parent of not just one, but two players that use the multipurpose field extensively. And they have also been in the summer camps here for many years. We basically live at Founders all year long. We love this park, and I think I want to commend all of you for all of the surveys, commend the council, because clearly people have very strong feelings about this place. It is a real community treasure, from the staff to the facilities. And I can say just very personally, when we first moved to the Keys almost 10 years ago, and I had an infant and a 4-year-old, that 4-year-old is now as tall as I am, this was one of the few places I actually felt safe bringing them. It was a manageable beach space. The grass was here. We were in a house that had no grass, and coming from an area where, you know, we take for granted sometimes that there is grass, to be able to come out here and use that multi-purpose field, fly kites, all of that. We talk a lot about the sports, but there's a lot of usage that goes on as well. So My kids do not play baseball. I am not taking a stance on the baseball issue at all. But from the multi-use field perspective, they play lacrosse, they play soccer, they play flag football. And one of the things I've noticed as we have traveled throughout South Florida, from the mainland down to Key West, is that when they do play on the turf fields, whether it's BlackBerry level turf or iPhone 10 level turf, it's hot. It's incredibly hot. And I didn't really appreciate that until that one there actually was playing one day, and I kept wondering why in the world he was running so weird. And I said something to him, like, why are you running like that? And he said it's because the heat was burning through his cleats, which actually is what spawned his science fair project last year, was looking at the effect of how hot that turf gets and the effect on players' feet. And so I would just encourage you all, it is a serious issue. And I think if we can do a try it before we buy it, because we don't necessarily have the data, I would really support that. I asked the folks when they were here last time if they had examples of fields where the cooler turf is going to be. I would welcome the opportunity to go visit one to actually see. So that's kind of where we are on that. Thank y'all so much.
Thank you very much, Elizabeth. I think there's a new analogy being coined also, BlackBerry versus whatever the newest iPhone is. I think that's translatable to probably any generation, so we can all understand that.
Okay, next up, we have Larry Zetwalk.
Although the younger generation probably doesn't even understand BlackBerry, so.
I had one. Record, total.
Thank you. Larry Zetwalk, mile marker 74, been down here since 87, worked in this place, was a scuba dive instructor, late 80s, early 90s, right across the field. I was here when we bought this thing, and I was a supporter at that point. I'd like to talk just a few things here, and I think I can address some issues for everybody. I have done a deep dive in all this. Common sense, okay? I hear that this field's going to cost $5 million plus, and whatever the money is, and yet taxes are going up. Not necessarily in the village, but I did read the headlines for the school board that their millage rate's going up. And I've talked to one of the people on their board that says they're not going to spend one penny over $5 million. That is a quote. And I keep thinking, and I love it when Mr. LaFear said that field will be pristine when baseball season starts. Well, if the field's going to be pristine and not cost us any money, why are we going to spend $5 million more? And I like the fact that 100,000 square feet of grass could go away. And that plan that's coming up, the soccer field is going to go to AstroTurf too. There's another 100,000. And heat, personally, with 2 heat guns, I've gone out, air temperature 92 degrees, asphalt's 140. Okay, we all agree that's pretty hot. Then I go over to artificial turf, it's 168 degrees. Now, last week in the paper, it's even hotter than that. This is done by the University of Florida agricultural people. And let's just skip to maintenance. Repairs. Anybody ever watched the ball field games last week when it started to rain on those AstroTurf? What are they doing? They're covering it up. They're stopping the rain. Nobody seems to mention that when a AstroTurf, synthetic turf, plastic turf gets wet, it gets harder. It gets harder. There goes your cushioning. Repairs. If it rains, theoretically, you're supposed to roll the field then and smooth it out because everything underneath is
30
smooth.
seconds remaining.
Supposed to be inspected periodically by a qualified technician repeatedly, and then the fill adjusted, because if the fill washes out when it rains 3 inches. Anybody see any heavy rain this week? Yeah. Is Maria going to go out and cover the field? Where's those fields going to go? Now the field, 5 different kinds of field.
Time.
The best fill that everybody seems to use is ground up tires. It's probably because it's the cheapest. That washes into the water. And what happens when we have a hurricane? This will have to be an agreement. And I love some of the comments I heard about nailing everything. Who's going to do what? Is FEMA going to respect that field? If they want to put a tent there, they want to put a vehicle there, they're rolling in. They're not stopping. No, they're going to pay for it.
Thank you, Larry. Was that time?
It's-
Thank you. Thank you.
All right, let me just say, can I have a few more minutes? This is the audience
You
because.
can have it 30 seconds.
All right, here's Dr. Morris. Dr. Morris, let's say Alamorada Fire Rescue Medical Director. Strong opposition. We urge you to preserve the 100,000 square feet of natural grass, consistently linked to higher rates of injuries, and exposing our children and athletes unnecessary. Artificial turf poses a significant health hazard in our climate. Okay. 3 weeks ago, an umpire died on artificial turf calling a game. Anybody wants to see any of the documentation? I've got it all. And I've asked repeatedly to have somebody give me documentation on artificial turf that's better than grass, and it has not come forward.
Thank you, Larry. And that is, just as an aside, that is a part of what the earlier conversation was, is that there will be a complete analysis of whatever the actual decision, whatever the actual vendor is, so that each of these questions can be addressed, which are all very valid, legitimate. Who else do we have public comment?
We have Tony Hammond next.
Right, Tony Hammond, 246 Chandler Street. My comments have nothing to do with baseball field or with artificial or natural surface. But I think as park and rec individuals, you have a bigger calling and vision. I don't believe that Ron Levy or Frank Kaliski or any of the other men who were the first council members that were responsible for us bringing Founders Park into existence ever envisioned this being a quiet, passive nature park. The desire of Founders Park has always been, as is indicated by the pool, and Ron's dream and desire to have it as a premier swim site with competitions and other teams coming in, should be maintained, as well as the amphitheater. I don't hear anybody screaming and hollering about concerts and things that are taking place or events that take place in this park. Clearly, from the very beginning, the sports and rec teams have used it from children all the way through. I want you to keep that in mind as you make decisions moving forward. We need to have this facility to be available to everyone in the community and be used by everyone in the community. I am here as a parent, as a grandparent, loving what I have seen take place in this park, but it is not this idea of turning Founders into a butterfly park. You know, that's not our dream or vision. That we've got a facility, which, by the way, the park doesn't own, but the woods next door is owned by the village. And that certainly should be maintained as a good, tranquil environmental center. So that's all I have to say.
Thank you, Tony.
Okay, next up, Jamie Engel.
Good evening, Jamie Engel. I have a question, and I know we'll probably get to it on the presentation that we're going to get, which I'm kind of excited to watch, because I think last time that kind of got railroaded, and there wasn't a lot of attention paid to it. So I think this is a great opportunity. So I'm glad we're doing that. But it is in regard to the turf, because I know Miller Legg had recommended at that last meeting that they were going to change the multi-use big field into turf. So maybe they can give us some more information or answer some questions when they're doing their presentation as far as why they chose that and how much it would be and what the expense is. I mean, I would hope they would have done that for the $175,000 that we paid these experts. I would hope that maybe they would be able to answer some of the questions that have come up tonight. I'm glad Ron got conversation with everybody about getting, finding that building over there, which I was one of the ones that went, I had no clue. Came over last night, took a picture and saw it said locker room on the outside and said, how have I been here 22 years and never noticed that? So I think I would love to take a tour of that. I think that's very interesting. And I think that helps take care of some of the concern that came out in the survey that Mayor Mahoney did, which I'm very thankful that she did because it gave the community the opportunity to be able to give their opinions. The other survey that was done was Miller Legs, I think was extremely clear in the same direction. We didn't want new building, new construction. We wanted to maintain what we had and renovate it and keep it going. So I think the survey results are good. As far as Carolyn was at the meeting, I'm on the task force. Carolyn was there the other day. I appreciate you attending. And Carolyn did make a point to say that she was under the impression, and that I think all of you were, that when you were voting at the last meeting, having the discussion about turf versus grass, that it was one way or the highway, that if you didn't agree with the turf, because the school district had already decided on that, that the money would go away. I want to tell you, I've spoken with every school board member and with Pat LaFear and all of them. The money stays in the community at Coral Shores. It may not go to the baseball program. It may not go to Islamorada, the Village of Islamorada. It will go back to the high school and they might get the field redone or the turf or the track or something else. But we keep that money. It's ours. Richie said the right thing. 5 million was a placeholder. And I wish the village had a budget
30
5 years,
seconds
10
remaining.
years down the road, because that's what we really need to be looking at, especially if the decision ends up being to go with turf, because it will cost, if the school board doesn't pay at 100%, the cost of replacement is between, on the low side, $500,000 up to $1 million, and that is at today's prices. So we have to have that money put in our budget. So we need a budget put in place for long run, not just like we've been doing, I think, every year. Thank you.
Thank you, Jamie.
Okay, now we have Margie Smith.
Do you still have Christy on Zoom? She just texted me, just to make sure.
Would be Frank.
I'm still here.
Does she need to go first? Was she here before? Okay. Okay, so I'm Margie Smith, 209 Palm Avenue. I have two girls. My husband and I moved here in 2005 with a 3-month-old that many of you met back then, who, this has really been our home away from home, just like Elizabeth talked about with her family. We've been here for every possible event, volunteering, whether it's chamber events, whether it's soccer. I coached soccer for 5 years on this lawn. I've been primarily interested in the pool because that's where we spend most of our time at Founders Park over the years. But I wasn't paying that close attention, frankly, beyond the pool until now. And I didn't realize until tonight we're talking about not having grass on the main multi-use field that we use for so many things. So I guess my primary concern with that specifically is, one, I guess, just concerns about not having a natural green space that can be used for all of those different sports. That's one huge concern. I remember my youngest rather, learned to walk on the grass here at the pool, but we also were camped out every Friday night looking at the soccer games with the tiny one, while the bigger one, who was 4, played AYSO. So that space has been used for so many different instrumental purposes for families, and there's not a lot of places for families to go, frankly, to have open space, certainly. So I guess that's my biggest concern. Is I'm kind of shocked to hear that we're even considering putting something other than grass on that main lawn. And then, of course, bigger picture, I'm just very happy that you have all invested as much as you have in two things that are critical to this community. The childcare program over the summer, that means so much to low-income families. It is one of the best places you can go around here at a reasonable rate. And at the same time, the investments you've made in the pool, which has made it possible for both my daughters are going to be college swimmers because of the investment you have made. So thank you for that. And I hope you realize the treasure you have here. I'm definitely concerned about that open space being anything but grass. Thank you.
Thanks, Margie. And it's not the treasure that we have, it's the treasure we all have, we plural. Thank you.
Okay, is there anyone else that we missed that didn't get on the list? I think we're done.
Okay, anything else from, all right. I have one quick reminder, and that is I put this shirt on, which is the reminder of the Swim for Alligator Lighthouse, which will be between now and the time we meet again. And that swim is celebrating as we were doing the pledge, just looking at the lighthouse in the middle of our logo. And the Swim for Alligator Lighthouse is early September and draws several hundred swimmers for that 4-mile ×2 round trip. And there will be hundreds of kayaks and lots of people and celebration of really the center of our village. And so I just thought I would celebrate that for all of us and remind us.
Can I interject? If you're a betting person, I want to put my money on Lane, unless Carly's coming home.
Right, exactly.
Caroline,
Yes.
can I make a couple comments about the people that spoke, what they spoke to?
Oh, okay.
First off, ma'am, you're correct. I'm surprised as well that they're talking about putting turf on the other fields. And then, Jamie, you're right, the cost, we would have to budget out except for the part of the field that the village manager is stating that we're not going to pay for any under his negotiations. And I'm pretty sure he's a good negotiator, but great points.
Great. Thanks, Ted. Any other comments? Okay. So if I can read the order. Miller Legg. And thank you all for your patience and participation. This is what it takes to be involved in our community. Was there anybody on Zoom? Did Christy want to talk?
No, I just was concerned that I might have lost you.
Okay, great.
Thank you, Alina. Thank you, everybody.
Yep.
All right. Thank you guys for having us. I appreciate letting us come and talk. I know the last workshop kind of got sideways because of the baseball discussion. So this is our time again. I think it's important to bring it up. You know, we're near towards the end, but I do want to highlight that what a master plan kind of is. It just sets a guideline, right? There's still going to be opportunities. Let's say this plan kind of gets adopted. It's a vision, right? For Founders Park, it's a vision for the village to consider in the future. And remember, this plan is for 15 years, right? In long vision, right? So you still will have an opportunity come every budget year for CIP and what gets selected out of this plan and gets implemented. Then there will also be, once that comes into CIP, then you'll have actual design for different segments of what the master plan was kind of envisioning. This is really concept schematic. These are not construction documents. So I just want to clarify that. And I'll walk you a little bit through kind of our process and what the input is. I know that on the website, it shows kind of the feedback we received from the survey, which we had really good highlights. And then I'll cover kind of the workshop intake we took. And then we ran a poll online that was about more than a month. And we taken that into consideration, and we'll hear your comments today. Nothing is set in stone, and I'll kind of explain, you know, why we recommended some of this information. You know, it's a combination of a bit of everything, and obviously our professional take on things. So again, it's kind of been a long process in the road as well. We kind of, when we started, we met with the village stakeholders. We met with the staff, right? And we set kind of the goals and the vision for this. We began inquiring all the information of the site. We looked, we walked it. We knew what's out here, right? The conditions of it, not only just the quantities of, you know, how many tennis courts you have. We looked at everything on the conditions. We knew that there was a baseball plan in place. We knew that eventually you will receive some information on that. And then we also inquired too with the marina staff and had sit down conversations and interviews with that. And then we did more of the site analysis as well. We had our first visioning workshop. And then after that, which we did do some participation, kind of remember some activities that we did. We had the survey run for about 3 months. We ran that survey.
And then we got now to the draft plan. And then we had the workshop last time, maybe it was what, a month ago? A little bit more than a month ago now. And we're working towards the final plan, but this is an opportunity now to hear, especially from the advisory committee, what are some of the thoughts? Okay, so I just want to kind of highlight the survey again. We had mail outs and postcards. It's a statistically valid survey that went out. We had about 4,450 surveys mailed out. That's almost all your households. We had a really high intake back of 12% of your population. You might say, oh, that's not a lot. Well, typically a statistically valid is about 1% or 2% of that. So that's, obviously we know that Founders really is the heart of the community. And I just want to highlight some of our findings was people were very familiar with the park. It was weekly visits, about almost half the population visits the park as well. And then some of the opportunities that the public really wanted us to focus on was some that came up was enhanced beach areas, the butterfly areas, community gardens, add food services of one sort, shaded outdoor, additional walking, biking trails, pickleball, improve outdoor event spaces, renovate the restrooms, and incorporate sustainable design and enhance the marina areas. Some of the top things that really kind of which was a high need, and then it got, what means is it was a high importance, but it wasn't meeting the needs of the community, really were the pickleball courts, outdoor fitness, and then a community center. So there were high needs, but they weren't meeting the expectations of it. So these are results kind of from the survey that came out. Again, as I said, we really did meet with various stakeholder groups. We met with council, village staff, the advisory group at one point, the park and marina staff, the program instructors, youth sports, civic groups, school groups. Then we have the workshop, the survey. So we've gotten all that into consideration. And you could see here a list of everybody who we met and the different participants as well. So all of this, what we did was, it's a summary of key matrix, right? Where we're able to evaluate and rank what are the priorities, right? So this doesn't only consider one group in particular. This is a collection of all the stakeholders, then the survey and the actual workshop as well. And then the survey is ranked higher because of the number of participants that participated and the feedback we received. So out of that, really what ranked the highest was indoor space in general, the need for indoor space, actually helping shield from the weather and kids' safety as well with the program. So those were numerous kind of comments that we received back kind of across the board from the survey, from the workshop, from the school groups, as well as from the sport instructors, from the staff, and then as well from village staff. Enhancing the beach area was another one that kind of came up. And then just improving parking in general, maybe the alignment of things, and food options out there. Now, that's an opportunity, whether it is a concession, if not, we enhance it through food trucks. That's something that's movable, and we could focus on that too. But those are some of the decisions these are some of the recommendations and highlights that kind of drive us to prepare some of our recommendations. Shade, of course. We know that it's hot, it's unbearable. Those are comfort amenities that are very much in need. The pickleball courts, walking paths and connectivity in general through the park, being able to walk safely without vehicle intersection. And then another thing that kind of popped up was we love the events that happen in Founder Park. But the backstage area could kind of be improved. So these were feedback that we receive a lot from the vendors as well, and from the staff of observations of the background organization that maybe somebody who comes wouldn't notice it, but these are constraints that they're having in these events as well. As well as, enhancing the marina area, maybe the organization of it, and enhance safety and security, as well improve fitness areas and kind of look at them and relocate. Improve the maintenance area storage was another element that kind of popped up as well. And then we did have the option for artificial turf, and this is where what was kind of the recommendations, where did it come from? The use of the grass field. There is need for sports, and this is what was expressed to us from the sports groups as well, that there wasn't enough time, field play time. Whether the turf at times, the regular grass needs to downtime to rest and be maintained, and then programs being kind of, back to back and back. So there was a need for that. That's why some of the recommendations was for the artificial turf, and I'll explain kind of how it helps the game time. And we have listened, and we have a different option as well for that turf. Another thing too was incorporates sustainable design, renovate the restrooms, and improve just the general amenities throughout the park as well. And as you could see, so from there, we know where were kind of the previous studies being done. We knew that the pool was a current project being done. And as soon as we've coordinated and know what's the status of that, as well as the baseball. Now, when we first started this, the baseball was underway already. And we were told that that was the location of it as well. And just to kind of coordinate what was going to come to the future of that location. So last time we kind of met, we had whether put a green dot or a red dot for your most favorite or your least favorite. And then we did have a bit of confusion because, of course, the multi-purpose field at the baseball, which is called that, but kind of came after our thing. And we also kind of recommended a multi-purpose field out here just to increase the usage and the downtime maintenance that is included. But we take it into consideration, and I'll show you kind of the polls what came out. They really did. These are some of, it was about 300, including between 250 online, and then in the workshop was like another 40 or 50 members. So we have the main entrance dedicated lane that we proposed to be a high kind of people like that as well. Then we renovated or expanded restrooms. That came in as second as well. And the beach areas, just to kind of take care of that beach area and expand it as well. So those were some of the top recommendations. Now, we've listened. We know that apart from that, we also asked, what was your least proposed element? And part of it was the artificial turf. Okay, so now we know that, well, yes, it will increase playtime. It's something that residents are concerned on. And we are taking that into consideration. And again, we have that option, whether on our plan to at the time to make the right decision, whether it's artificial turf or just leave it as grass, and that's fine. We could have those two alternative options. And when the time comes, that is phase 2, that could be discussed further as well in design. And then I'll highlight why least favorite, and it's, the artificial turf, and it's not safe, and the numerous kind of comments. And again, Ron, I appreciate that you highlighted that in design, and eventually once you'll spec out the artificial turf that it is, and it is right. There's a variety of artificial turf. There's numerous studies, and it's really, there's quite a bit of various opinions. We, on one side, we're landscape architects, right? So we do care about the environment. We're environmentalists as well. But at the same time, you have the recreational component, whether it does increase playtime. And then you don't use fertilizers, because you do have to use fertilizers to maintain these fields too. So it's not that you're not completely eliminating chemicals on one side. So you do have to consider that. And then the playtime, the time that it takes to maintain these and the time that you're not able to play is significantly higher than the maintenance that it takes for artificial turf. It's probably like a month or two, a month or a month and a half for artificial turf compared to probably 3 months So it's like double the time that you're not able to play on that. So it significantly grows the playtime. So again, these are kind of elements to share with you. I know there's various studies which we could, kind of help provide and guide you on that. But again, this is just one glimpse of the master plan. We're focused on the overall conceptual, and I don't want for everybody in the public to just get hung up on the multipurpose artificial turf. There's a lot of proposed things and different elements. And if we choose not to do artificial turf because that's the public take and we want to be sustainable, that's understandable. We could just go to regular grass. The only thing would be that we would suggest if the baseball is going to be artificial turf, we do practices and we use that field for practices and heavy, sports time, and then use our games at a regular grass field. So that's an alternative that we could always implement as well. Okay. So we did listen to a couple other kind of concerns and comments. And one of the things is, we switched out the playground area component. We actually met even with the playground vendors, and they kind of agreed on the relocation of it to the existing sand volleyball for the reasons that this is going to help ADA and inclusive play for the kids, as well as kind of the safety on the location right over here and the access of kids running like towards the beach where the current location of the playground is. But we made sure that, and I could zoom into this. We want to leave the sand volleyball in the beach area and have it more just be recreational play. So instead of another extra tiki, you would still have the sand volleyball in that location. But you will have hard, just regular court volleyball, 2 courts near the aeronasium, which will have the basketball and the pickleball. And this is kind of feedback we received as well, because I believe it's one of those, Annie, it's one of the schools that uses, right? That uses those volleyball courts, correct? Yeah, so that is a need for that. So those are kind of some of the changes we want. If we could go through all the recommendations on it. Apart from the entrance, which would be a dedicated main entrance to have a dedicated lane for residents and one for the visitors. And what our take on it and our recommendation is that you have really kind of more of an approach of license plate or a card for the residents to come in. And for members that are non-residents will pay automatically by the plate. And that way you will alleviate the staff just for the weekends where there's a higher increase in the park as well. And then the second entrance really, which would be near the village as well. That entrance, number 1, I would say, would be more dedicated for the village marina and then park staff as well. For the maintenance crew and all that. And then that way it would alleviate the traffic and you would have allocate, reorient the parking spaces better, because you go back there, kind of the trailers are in different variations of sizes, and we could easily, if we arrange the parking, we could improve that location out there as well. Another area too, when I kind of highlighted, was restroom and just the shelter out there by the beach area. We want to make sure the restroom that needs renovation. And if we could expand that to include some type of storage as well to help, and whether we choose, the option if it's allowed to have a concession stand. If not, it could just be storage for the future for events as well. And then it could help support maybe food trucks that come in for the concerts as well. But you definitely need storage and a renovated restroom in that area as well. And then just expanding the beauty of the beach in the sense of adding more sand and adding more palms, for shade as well, and just adding 2 tiki areas for all the residents to enjoy as well. In near the number 13 and 14, there is an existing driving range out there. And what our recommendations would be is you could do a little short putting range nearby. And I think this would be an interest to the school as well that has a golf club as to use. And maybe that could come into some type of agreement alongside the baseball coming as well. Another space we would recommend would be basketball courts near the pickleball courts, all in an airnasium, which is covered. This would be amazing. You imagine being able to play out there and the sun not beating you constantly. That would be amazing as well. And then the multi-purpose field would just kind of be a loop around, so you could actually walk throughout the multi-purpose and kind of circulate through the park as well. And then in the later phases, there would be a need for the community center to kind of be expanded or look maybe up towards it. But this will be in the later phases because a community center indoor space would be, it really would be a committed price to do this. So this would be long-term, 15-year. Again, there's plenty of grants out there that would help maybe build a lot of these recommendations that we're doing. We will highlight some of these grants and kind of specify what the village could actually potentially use throughout the years on this as well. I did want to highlight. So these are kind of the phases of there. So the beach area and the main entrance would be the first phase, which will be years 1 through 3. The second phase would actually be the second entrance, and then the marina area, and then the amphitheater back kind of area, parking area as well. Then in the third space, in order for us to really look at doing an airnasium and looking at pickleball courts to propose, there is an opportunity along the preserve area, which I'm not sure if anybody has taken a drive or walked back there, but we do have village equipment out there. We have even the sheriff's equipment, the marina equipment actually being exposed to the climate out there. And it's not the best location to store some of this. There's a mixed match of storage units out there. So what we're really proposing is to be able to use the back lot and maybe put like a maintenance facility storage unit and parking to, again, this is just showing big picture parking to support these while still preserving the tree canopy around. And whatever trees will be used, we could mitigate for them potentially near the preserve with a nice walking trail and added trees, hammocks on there. And then the last phase, as I said, phase 4, which is 10 to 15 years, really will look at the community center and being able to provide maybe an indoor gymnasium for the kids really to be able to play inside. I'm going to leave the plan up for a little bit, and then if you guys have any questions, I will take it at this time.
I have a quick question.
Yeah.
Hi, I'm Natasha Early. Can you go over with your browser, maybe the second entrance, what that route would look like?
Yes.
And again, tell me who that is intended for.
So the second entrance would be really for the marina.
Mhm.
And that would have, again, a plate reader, or the marina residents could enter by that location as well.
Mhm.
And the reason why is because most of your active programming is in this area, right where we're at. You have all the marina traffic kind of coming through here. You could easily redirect it through the second entrance, come down here, and then just kind of drive and be able to back up into the Currently, the ramp is in kind of at a weird angle. And the idea of doing this circulation is to kind of alleviate that angle and have, you know, the trailers be able to back up into the ramp a bit better.
So that would be an entrance for village people, for villagers.
It'll be for the marina, your main entrance will be for the villagers. For residents of the village, the marina residence is different, and then the marina usage, as well as the park maintenance, you know, with their big equipment coming in. Well, eventually when if you have your maintenance dedicated on number 19.
And then number 2 with the current main entrance is the dedicated lane for this.
Gotcha.
Yeah, the current entrance would be.
And back to the, and I participated in the survey, but back to the survey, how many did you mail out?
4,450.
Did we miss a section?
You have about 5,000 households, I believe. We nearly, so, I mean, hands here, who received the mail out in their homes?
Is that correct, Steve? 5,000? Okay.
Households. You're higher in percentage of population.
Lumi, I have a quick question about the Airnasium covering basketball and pickleball. Remind me, that mean it is a covered space?
It's a covered roof, but it is air. That's why we call it airnasium. So it won't have any walls. Yeah, and you could put, the great thing about these is you could actually put solar panels on these, and it could help generate a lot of the lights around and everything as well.
And I was just thinking about the orientation of the courts. Do
Since
you
it's
believe that-
covered,
Yes.
that wouldn't be an issue.
Alleviate the,
Yeah, yeah. You wouldn't typically orient them in that direction. You are correct.
perfect.
I had a question. For the multi-use, is there another option other than full grass or full turf to do a percentage?
Maybe we could do a small practice field of artificial turf and leave the majority of grass. Now, because remember, you mark up the fields in for different plays, like if lacrosse is playing, or if you have football out there, or if you have soccer. So you are kind of constrained if you put artificial in just one little segment, but we could look into that. Again, I think a good option if the baseball moves forward with artificial turf is into that agreement, we make sure that when they're not in play, these fields could be used. You could easily put in, and you see it, and we could show you other fields, baseball fields have turned into artificial turf, and they actually have lined up for practice play, like a soccer field out there. So that is a common practice that could be used. That's why I mentioned if that moves forward, then we don't have to do we don't have to do both two artificial turfs.
Yeah, Steve.
So, a few minutes, and I certainly appreciate you, and I have appreciated all your hard work since we started. Okay, I'd like to open up with a few comments. Since we last met a couple months ago in this part, and this process started, I have tried to spend as much time as I can looking into the fields. I'm not, all right, I'll start with the fields and then I'll move on to the general park plans. For all that I previously wholeheartedly endorsed that artificial turf is the safest alternative for the baseball field, independent of everything else, with the same enthusiasm, I would now endorse to the committee and ultimately to the village council that we should stay with natural grass throughout the entire multi-purpose fields. So beginning this rationale, artificial turf, according to one of the manufacturers I spoke to, lasts for approximately 10 years. Maria quoted to me an informal estimate. This is not a bid. This is not an official estimate to the village. To do our multi-purpose fields, the entire multi-purpose fields and artificial turf would be $1 million. If it lasts for 10 years, that's $100,000 a year. Simple math. I am endorsing natural grass for our multi-use fields, with the belief that we have the opportunity to upgrade the quality of care for the grass and give our young people a better playing surface. I've recently started working with Maria, and we haven't had a chance to come up with what she would envision as our current maintenance costs for the natural grass. Maintenance on an ongoing basis is clearly less with artificial. Artificial turf is 5 man-hours per month. We're clearly putting in more than that to maintain our natural grass. But if the annualized cost of artificial turf is $100,000 a year, I feel like we could significantly upgrade the care of our natural grass to bring it up to a level that the children deserve, that they could play on safely and reduce their risk of injury. And that leads to the next thing. Even though everything I said to all of you sitting on this committee previously about baseball and injuries on artificial turf no longer applies to soccer and lacrosse and any other field sport. Based on the difference in the cleats and the motion, if you play soccer or lacrosse, which are our two main sports, on artificial turf, there is a higher incidence of anterior cruciate ligament, in other words, knee injury ligaments, because the turf doesn't give when the player plants their foot and turns, and so they're more susceptible. And you can find medical journal articles that say that teenage girls have a higher incidence of ACL injuries on artificial turf than teenage boys. There's a lot of information out there, but I believe that the natural grass is safer from an injury perspective. We've already had several speakers comment this evening on the heat perspective. And yes, so artificial turf is a minimum of 20 to 25 degrees hotter than natural grass, and probably more. There are all sorts of sophisticated ways for measuring this, it turns out. According to the International Olympic Committee, you measure the temperature at 1.5 to 2 meters off the surface of the field to reflect the height of the adult players. Well, that doesn't apply to the kids. And I could not find any specific medical journal articles on differences of heat-related illness in pediatrics for artificial versus natural, but the general consensus is that children are more at risk for heat-related illness than adults. Therefore, this is speculation, but it's probable that the children are going to have a greater risk of heat-related injury or illness on the artificial than on the grass. That's another thing. Now, going back, throwing in that about illness or injury and heat, now let's go back. The village recently constituted an ad hoc budget review committee, and as I recall from seeing that, one of the biggest considerations for the village was that benefits add to the cost. So I don't know if the village would consider hiring someone dedicated to the maintenance of the natural grass playing fields at a level which would make it safe for the kids, or if the village would pursue a model of taking the existing manpower and trying to up their training and time spent on the fields. But whichever we chose, and again, I want to get back with Maria as to how many man hours she feels that we're, I see them out there every day. They spend roughly 2 hours, 3 days a week cutting. And then in August, they fertilize, they aerate, they level the fields. So those are the man hours. Whichever we choose, whether we increase our man hours with existing park staff, or whether the village, and I'm not trying to spend the council's money, wherever all of you are, or whether the village did hire somebody else dedicated to fields, I feel like we're going to come in less than $100,000 a year, which is what we would be looking at if we went for artificial turf at $1 million for 10 years. And then finally, I have spent the past few weeks polling parents of children who play on those fields. It predominantly represents soccer parents because the lacrosse parents aren't meeting right now. I polled Islander parents. I polled people that I saw in the grocery store who I knew whose children were playing soccer or lacrosse. And finally, last night, I went to the registration for fall soccer and interviewed as many people as I could there. The results I got were 37 people, parents preferred natural, 10 preferred artificial, and 7 had no preference. So I think that's a clear statement from the community or from the parent community in favor of natural grass for these fields. But in spite of the fact I'm advocating for natural grass for these fields, now talking about the entire plan, I think you all have done a wonderful job, and there's a tremendous value for this park and for the members of this village for the Miller Leg plan. And so consequently, since I think we have an obligation to offer something to the village, I do have some motions for all of you that are not going to include the surface of those multi-use fields until we get some more information, hopefully in favor of grass. So and you may look at the order of these motions I'm going to give you don't correspond to phase 1, phase 2, phase 3, phase 4, but I think it's what's going to give the most immediate value to the park and to the members of the village who use the park. So I'm going to make a motion. I move that the committee endorse to the village council that they adopt the recommendations for modification to the main entrance, including a dedicated lane for village residents.
Before anybody seconds have it, I'd like to continue to have a roundtable of this committee. Good motion. I just would like for everybody else to go ahead and give their comments on this. Is that possible to do, Carolina? Would you-
Yeah, and I'd like to just ask, is the general expectation with this presentation that you have some official or unofficial commentary from us? Because I know this has been out in the public. Is this a specific request for something from us to say, yes, we like this, yes, we, yes or no? Is that the?
Yeah, this is the opportunity to give kind of and I know I've met with you guys before and you guys been informed throughout the whole process, but one last time, because we are moving forward towards the final master plan, and we wanted to get adopted so there could be a vision for the future for Founders Park.
So your request or the expectation is that you would walk away with something from us as a committee? Is that the understanding?
Correct. I mean, what would be your advice? Whether we need to go back to the drawing board or make some additional changes? Again, I said the regular grass or artificial turf are 2 alternatives, and you could see the range of price in the master plan as well. And that could be further discussed, even if the plan gets, that's the vision for the future, that could still be further up for discussion in numerous opportunities, once you hit CIP adoption, on your budget, and then when the design comes into play as well.
Any motion, are you for a second? We have discussion?
Well, I'm just trying to find out what is the expectation. So yes, there is a motion on the floor. I'd like to, maybe before we do that, I'd like to reinforce our earlier conversation, and that is to request that we set aside specific recommendations relating to artificial versus grass, only because that's a more complex issue that has all the things that we've already discussed. We don't know if we're in a BlackBerry or an iPhone 18 right now. So that would be my suggestion, but that does not exclude what it is that you're talking about. And you excluded it also, did you not?
Correct. I'm going to propose a few motions to you going through one at a time. You don't have to vote up or down on any of them, but I feel like we owe it to Leg Miller. I feel like we owe it to the village council to give them something. This is a 15-year project, we don't have to decide everything tonight, but I think we can get started while we wait on more information about turf versus grass.
I have some questions about the secondary entrance for the marina and maintenance. So how in God's green earth is that going to be managed? You know, right now there's a place where you can't go past that. So maintenance is going to go that way. The marina, so you're going to have maybe a pass for captains that are going to use the ramp. Has anything been settled with marina staff regarding changing that parking area and such?
We haven't got into the details of specifics when it comes to operations. Right now, this is conceptual.
Yeah, I mean,
Purely conceptual.
concept is one thing,
Yeah.
but is it feasible? I mean, or should we just throw it out? You know, is it
I'd
feasible?
say it's feasible. We think it's a feasible project, yes.
Okay.
We had cards given to us 20 years ago. That was supposed to be a residence entrance. I
Mhm.
still had the card. I think I finally gave it to Maria just for fun. So here you go.
Obviously, the design is all comes into play. This is conceptual. It's not engineering drawings. Obviously, the road will have to change some. There's different, the accessibility will have to change. They're looking at, actually, it's a license plate reader access program. So it's based on that. So there's a lot of details to it. So this, again, I think is more, I think what Lumi's looking for is it's the overall project, the overall conceptual plan. Do you like this? Do you not like this? Do you think it's a good idea?
And I know John's in his motion, he's redacting the grass versus artificial. Artificial, boy, what a bad word lately. So the way I looked at the plan that was sent to me is the golf driving net, is that going to be artificial too?
It's just a little piece. It's just like when you're out in the driving range, you usually have a little piece of
You're
artificial.
just talking about the driving mats.
Yeah, I'm just
Okay.
talking about the driving mats.
Which are already there.
Correct.
Right.
Kind of.
And then the putting green, the area that was proposed for the putting green, we had that years ago. It didn't work because the village didn't own a greens mower. It takes a very specialty mower and they're very expensive, by the way, to mow greens. And I think that's probably why, I think it's about a 40 by 20 area that was already earmarked for that. I think that's probably why they let it go, but also why there's been some discussion about artificial there. Now I do, the house I just sold to my son has an artificial putting green, and it's a different type of green that of course would go on the baseball fields. They don't get that hot as long as you have trees around, and that place, and that particular footprint has a ton of trees. So now of course the argument that could be made for all the other stuff with runoff and all of that, but it is a very small footprint. I would love to have, as a golfer, non-artificial there to putt on, but I don't know how realistic it is for that small footprint to go out and buy a greens mower, which who knows, at least 10 grand. And that's all you would use it for. You wouldn't use it for anything else.
So we can, and thanks, Ted, can we go back to what is our objective here? We actually have a second item on our agenda for this meeting, which requires, when we're talking about our parks things. So I need to understand, what is the specific objective relating to your presentation that we can contribute? And maybe the manager or Maria, you can help us while we still have this motion on the floor.
I personally think if there's anything on the conceptual plan that the committee really doesn't like, if there's something on there that the committee feels that is just not a good idea, maybe that's a good discussion. But if the committee feels that all the items are good suggestions and good recommendations, and then you could make a motion that conceptually you do agree with the plan and would like to maybe see more of if you like to see anything change in there, then maybe make recommendations that way, but
I think
I haven't heard anything that you're not happy with. So
I
is there
think
any-
that part of the Miller Lite survey asked residents about structures, additional structures in the park. And that was a resounding not so much,
Mhm.
correct?
Yes, correct. Like
So-
anything completely new.
Okay, so the community center, as I see it, is going to be a majorly expanded two-story structure. And I think that goes kind of against what the residents voted for.
Not really, because they specifically asked for so yes, when you say two-story indoor space, but then it kind of goes, well, we need safer indoor spaces, weather that allows us to have space for indoor recreation, weather permitted, that you're not outdoor in the climate. So it is a need that is a need, not just from the survey, that it was expressed from numerous program instructors, from the sports group, from even from the staff of what is needed. You have, this is all you have right now in here. And Maria, you could tell me how many programs are done here.
But that part was also in the, what, 7 to 10 year range?
That's in the 15-year range,
In the
actually.
15-year range. Okay, so guys, let's try to see if we can kind of get something accomplished here with the, I get the 15-year range,
Yeah,
but.
and it's a kit of think about it as a kit of parts. It's a vision, and you could pick and choose. It doesn't mean because the council moves forward with this vision or plan, does not mean that every part is going to have to be implemented. There's another portion of community input that will go into, again, with your CIP budget. And it all will change, because maybe in 15 years, there might be something else that will pop up, and the council will have to take that into consideration. The committee will have to as well. So it's just a vision. It's a kit apart, really, to set kind of what's needed.
Getting tens, millions of dollars of extra money, you ought to have this presentation.
Well, that's why there's reason for my asking, what is it that we do? And what I'm hearing from Maria, and maybe if the manager would add to this, is our specific, the contribution that we can make is not so much that it is the contribution that we can make. We don't hate anything enough to say that's terrible, so go ahead with it. Is that kind of, I mean, am I interpreting that correctly?
I'm reluctant to take that approach. And if that was directed to you, I apologize. I'm reluctant to take that approach because if I believe, like Alina's concerned with, does the two-story community center violate the public wishes? If we ask for a thumbs up or thumbs down on the whole thing, I think we'll be here for 4 hours and we will never
Exactly.
accomplish anything. That's why I opened with what I consider the most basic, straightforward, immediate item that would add value to the park and to the residents, and that is the main entrance. And that we can do at least some of this line item, because I don't think we have a consensus to adopt the full plan right now, regardless of the field selection. But we can at least adopt some things to get the ball rolling, small steps in a 15-year project.
Yes. And I do believe that I understand in some budget conversations that the idea of a second entrance has been not favorably, has been set aside for now. I don't know if I said that correctly, but that's, yeah, Maria?
This is basically the last opportunity for the public, which you are going to open it up for public comment, to give their input. So we do need to hear from the public as well and from the committee, because the next step is that Lumi will be going back to the drawing board, finalizing everything, and then it's going to be brought back to the village council at a village council meeting to kind of get their adoption or to get their input.
Again, a master plan adoption means you have a vision. That doesn't mean that the budget is set. These are, we put prices to it, and they're very conservative prices. Does not mean that probably will be lower. We go very conservative on the purpose because we would not like, and we think about contingency in the long run. That's why the number's so high, because it's a 15-year plan. That does not make the council accountable in the future for any of the potential CIPs. That's another set of regulations that will come through, and that will be another public engagement opportunity. A master plan is just, you're adopting the vision and kind of the goal. It's still moldable because realistically, you always are going to look at your Parks and Recreation master plan. Every 5 years, you should look at it. So
What is the price tag of this?
it's
Right now, the way you have it, just the way you present it, what's the price tag?
the without the contingency is about 40 million if you include the community center, which is the biggest price tag. If you remove the community center, it's really between 15 million in just park improvements.
And that's over the 15 years?
Yeah, well, and with the 15 years, that's when you're looking at the 70 million because we're just prolonging. We don't know. We can't predict the cost of things 15 years from now.
No,
So
I'm just talking about if we did it today.
yeah, if we did it today, correct. Yeah. it would be-
So 40 million and 25 million of that is the community center.
yeah.
Okay,
Yep.
thank you.
And I think for us, for the Parks Department, it's a kind of like a guiding tool for us when it comes to looking at the future of amenities here at the park and also using it for budgetary guidelines. And obviously, every year we look at what the park needs. And we come to the Parks and Recreation Committee typically for any type of new improvements and new capital projects. And along the whole line, the village council obviously is aware of what we want to do, and all capital projects have to be approved by village council. So it's not something that's going to be sprung on the committee like that we're going to do something that's outside of the plan. And also that plan may change because there may be the need to renovate the bathrooms may come first before we do something else, because that need is more critical right now because of functionality. The roof needs to be replaced. So there's a lot of things that go into the whole planning of improving amenities or adding new amenities, but it will never be done without the committee and the council and the public being aware of it.
And the other thing about a master plan too, and again, it's right, you're going to have plenty of opportunities. Doesn't mean that you're going to implement everything in the plan. It's just setting a goal or a vision or a direction. And you relook at this obviously every year, every 5 years, because the public needs to change. But apart from that, what it does, and when you set having a guiding kind of document, is it helps you back up your grants. Because when you actually have a guide to, hey, we're planning to do this, we're thinking of this, well, where is the need for this? Where is the community input? You have the master plan to back up for these grants. So it opens up the doors for these grants as well. And I do want to highlight that.
Okay, I want to acknowledge that we have a motion on the floor, but what I'd like to do is request, what are the specific things in the first year or two that you are proposing?
The first 1 to 3 years will be the beach area, which are the simplest things, the beach area, and the second lane for the main primary entrance.
And when you say beach area, give us.
Yes, so it's additional sand, palms in that area, the playground, which that's already in the works, that there is a grant for that's being implemented, and then the sand volleyball to be moved.
So those are the only two specific things right now in the first 2 years of the proposed 15-year plan.
Correct.
Okay.
I'd like to make a comment on that relevant to my motion. As I said, I respect the way you propose things, and the two motions I was going to make did not exactly follow their recommendations for phase 1, phase 2, and phase 3, because I'm trying to add value to the park and to the residents in what I consider the most timely fashion. Those are excellent recommendations for the beach area, but the beach area is already getting good use, very popular. And that's why I started with the motion for renovation of the main entrance because I believe that that's an immediate, tangible change that will make an improvement for the park and for the village residents who use the park.
Great. That motion's on the table. Is there a second? Motion seconded. Okay. Would you repeat or would you ask for repeat it and ask for a vote on that, please?
I will try to put his words.
You do such a good job, Alicia. If you can do 14 pages, you can do, you can do that one.
Okay, so John motion for a recommendation to move forward with the renovation for a dedicated lane for residents at the current park entrance.
John, does that state it correctly?
Did I say that right?
Per the Miller Leg recommendation for main entrance improvement, including a dedicated lane for village residents.
Okay. All right.
Got it.
Motion's on the table. May we have,
I have one more question.
Okay.
So if we have a dedicated lane for residents, then we're going to have to expand the road, right? Okay,
Yes.
just making sure everybody
Yeah.
knows that.
and we also don't know where that new lane is going to be. If it's going to be at the main entrance or if it would be over more by the village hall.
Well, John, you're recommending the main entrance.
John's recommending expanding the main entrance.
You hire traffic engineers to do that. That's not our job. All I'm asking us is to endorse it. Traffic engineers decide where the widening occurs.
So there's no specific recommendation that either this road be expanded or that it be moved over to the other one. The idea is that this would be the top priority. Am I interpreting that?
Yes.
Okay. Question from the floor? Good. Well,
Hi,
yeah,
Sandy
we'll take
Bisceglia. Thank you for all the plans we're working on. The entrance to the park, if it's the second entrance by the firehouse down there, not the firehouse, what is that? The second entrance, that's okay.
Village Hall.
However, in my opinion, if it involves the magic word she said, mitigation, that means cutting down mature trees that have already been mitigated in the park to build a ball field. We've cut down many, many, many trees over the years to build a ball field. So if the main entrance involves cutting a single tree, mitigation, I'd like to respectfully disagree with that. Thank you.
Thank you. I
There's
think
other
that,
options too out there, I've been to a lot of parks because I go up North Florida, they do a QR code, put it in, prints you a ticket goes on your windshield, get rid of that gate. And then you don't have to change traffic pattern, and then you just put somebody in a golf cart, making sure everybody's paid their fee to get in. It's just one idea. There's other ideas out there, but we need to address. getting in
okay,
here
so
quicker
let's
than
see
have.
if we can, let's restate the motion as it's made and see if we can make sure that everybody's on the same, see if we can get concurrence. Do you mind restating that for us? Or John, you want to
John,
say it
do you mind
again?
repeating it so that I can write it down correctly? 'Cause
Okay.
I move that we adopt and endorse to the village council, that we endorse to the village council to adopt the recommendations from Miller Leg for improvement and renovation of the main entrance, including a dedicated lane for village residents.
Yeah.
As close as I can.
The point of order.
It's
we have to
okay, we'll take,
Vote the other one down and then.
that's okay, we'll take this one. And what I'm hearing is that also does not specifically say we're going to cut down trees or that we're widening anything. It simply says
It
this
says
would be
nothing
a
about
top priority.
trees. That's what engineers do for a living.
Yeah, so this endorses that the first priority would be that we prioritize there being a residence entrance to the park. Does that say it okay? Doesn't? Okay. Okay, would you revise that? So we all know. So we know what the idea is, and I think we can endorse that. So is there a second to the revised motion? Does John accept that? That the idea is,
I don't think we can do it that way. I think if we're gonna change the motion, we have to vote the first one down. That's just how it's done.
okay,
Yeah.
okay, all right, so,
I attempted to restate it as closely as possible based on memory. If I did not, I'm sorry, but I didn't mean to make a revised motion. I was trying to say the same thing, and I guess I just slipped up.
okay, so where are we parliamentary wise,
If it's the
guys?
same motion, then we vote on it,
Yes.
if everybody's okay with it.
All right, would you restate it one more time for us?
Yeah, I mean, I have a lot of different ways of saying it, but I think the way that you explained it was the shortest way of it.
That
I
we,
will definitely, I mean, obviously, when I go to do the minutes, I'll put exactly the words.
that we prioritize having a residence entrance to the park,
Yes.
consistent with all the other guidelines that we want to have.
But I think we need to vote down John's motion.
Okay. Can you resend, just resend?
Just
the
rescind the
first-
motion,
First motion, yes, resend it.
if you're comfortable with that, John.
I'm not entirely sure what all of you were, I'm not opposed to it. I'm not entirely sure what all of you were seeing as a difference. I will simply try again to restate that we endorse to the village council that they adopt the recommendations from Miller Legg for improvements of the main entrance, including a dedicated lane for residents. That's what I've tried to say all three times. I apologize if I changed the wording slightly. It was not my intent.
Ron, is it okay? Can we vote on this?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Thank you.
Yes. All right, we have a motion, we have a second. All right. Are there, are there any objections?
Yeah,
Are there-
I think that this is primarily for the main entrance and for a residence lane in the main entrance, which I want to go with what, your idea was. We want to have a residence lane somewhere. Doesn't have to be in the main entrance. So that's why I think I am going to vote against the way he said it. I would prefer it the way you said it.
Okay. Then let's start again. Do we endorse the motion that John has just made? Yes or no? Yes. Yes.
Yes.
Yes. No. Okay, that motion is carried then. We do not specify which
Oh.
lane it is.
I'm a yes too, by the way.
I'm sorry.
That's
Okay,
Thank you.
I didn't hear the vote.
She said yes.
I'm a yes.
Vote was yes. Okay.
Thank you.
Yes.
I said no. I was back to the one I phrased, but I'm happy to endorse what we have. So now we have a vote that is what, 7-2, 8-2, or whatever, for what John said, but I endorse the general idea, so 6-2, well. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So we've got 8. 6-2, 6-2. Okay. All right, so we have that. Are there additional, John?
Yes, I would like to make additional motions. And again, I recognize that this is not in the order that is proposed by Miller Legg, and that's nothing against Miller Legg. But now for a little refresher course for the longer term members of the committee and an update to the newer members of the committee. This all started with a request from the pickleball community that they needed more pickleball courts. Long before we have our current village council, before we had some turnover on the committee, this all started when the pickleball community came and asked for more pickleball courts. And the council at the time decided, rather than just building more pickleball courts, to undertake a comprehensive plan. So even though it is not in keeping with the order that they proposed it, here is my motion to answer that. And also, I would like to recognize that early on in this process, one of the earliest things that was identified as an opportunity for improvement, as I recall from the early Miller Lake discussions, was that we were losing a lot of valuable park space to maintenance, and there was a whole lot of unused area down at the southwest, which you recall on her diagram, that could be used for maintenance. That was identified early on as one of the most obvious, easiest to correct deficiencies in the park. So between that and the pickleball request, which prompted all of this, here's the second motion. I move that the committee endorse and recommend to the council that they adopt moving the maintenance area to the southwest corner of the park in keeping with the Miller Lake proposed diagrams, and proceed with the expanded recreation area to the eastern side of the park in keeping with the same Miller Lake diagrams, including the airnasium as proposed and the expanded number of pickleball courts.
All right, we have it. You got that, Alicia?
So I have motion to, for the committee to endorse and recommend to the council to adopt moving the maintenance area to the southwest corner in keeping with Middle Lake diagrams and proceeding with,
The expanded recreational areas on the eastern side in keeping with the Miller Lake diagrams, including the airnasium and the expanded number of pickleball courts.
can't write that fast. All right, let's try that again. So we have a motion for the committee to endorse and recommend to the village council to adopt moving the maintenance area to the southwest corner in keeping with Miller Lake, the Miller Lake diagrams, and proceeding with the expanded recreation areas on the eastern side, including airnasium and expanded number of pickleball courts.
When is it appropriate to offer a slight amendment to that? No?
I think if he has a second to the motion, then you can discuss it and vote.
Okay.
You need a second to move forward.
Do we have a?
If you don't
we do
get a
have
second, the
We
motion
do have a
moves. Okay.
second. Okay. So we have discussion. I would like to offer as discussion that we have long had the conversation to get the maintenance moved somewhere. And I think to be specific about where it goes limits us, because there are places that are out of the park that are in the village that we have discussed that that whole maintenance area might move to. And that we might not want to be quite so specific about where it goes, that it be a priority that the maintenance facilities be moved, that be a priority, which will free up the opportunity to have additional recreation areas, whether it's pickleball or whatever. I would personally say let's separate those two things, but that's just my conversation.
As I recall, that was addressed early on, and admittedly, there's been some turnover in personnel, both at the committee level and at the village council level, but I thought that was investigated and found to not be practical, and that there were no available areas that met the need within the village.
I can't answer to that. I don't know if that, maybe Ron could answer to that, but I don't. They're asking if there's other areas in the village of Islamorada to move maintenance to Public Works. to move Public Works to a different area outside of Founder's Park to any other areas in the village that the village owns property.
That's certainly the intention, but right now, I have a workshop scheduled for next Wednesday, the 27th here, for public input on village-owned properties. That's the good news. The bad news is that I'm not sure how many of them are appropriate for public works. We have the Machado property, but I've been directed by council, that's probably going to be more suitable for housing. I was looking at that, but they said that because of residential concerns, et cetera, that's probably more preferred for housing. We have the Island Community Church, which probably is the best place for anything like that. And I'm asking them to consider selling it. Silver and Spice would be the only one maybe like that, but that's probably not the highest and best use. So I would say the answer is we're going to continue to look for a place to put public works. We want to move it out of here, but we don't know where to put it at this point. We're certainly open to any realtor suggestions of where we can put it.
Caroline, I think with the motion he made, moving it, and opening up that area where we have a bay view to the people that, that would use these facilities is the way to go. If the power's higher above this board, want to find a better way from there on, then, in other words, let's get it moved and get it going under his, suggestion. And then later on, it can be readdressed, but I don't really think that's under our scope. Our scope is the park, not where to put employees on other properties. I just don't feel like it's under our scope. Plus, I think the village council's going to deal with that.
They're going to deal with where it goes? or
Where it
what
goes
other
from
uses
beyond this.
based on.
In other words, if we make the recommendation to the people on the council to move Public Works up by where he's talking about, that's a start, is what I'm saying.
And is that a practical start?
It would get it out of here.
Yeah.
Which is really what the big
That's the
push
objective.
was, is to
Right.
get it out of
That's the
here.
objective.
Because this is much more valuable land.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
And then we're not building anything over there. We're just moving it from there to there. And so it's just movable stuff. So they can move it again if we find a better place.
Well, what I would suggest is that we make this recommendation to the staff, to the manager, to whoever, that as soon as practically possible, get it moved from there. And if it's possible to move it over there, and then if there's something else, but I don't know that we want to have a specific direction that says it's got to go there. Let's get it done.
I would like to leave it as it is because we know that they can always change it later as circumstances arise. But again, this at least gets it started.
Okay, the they is the council. Well, we got three of them here and we got the manager here, so they can decide if this kind of a recommendation is what works. Okay, let's repeat the motion.
All right, so again, one more time. John.
Is it
has-
basically that Public Works be moved down to the southern part of the park?
Right.
Okay.
So I'll just repeat it again. So John motioned that the committee endorses and recommends to the council to adopt moving maintenance. I'm assuming you mean Public Works. But I can put that in there. To make the maintenance area to the southwest corner in keeping with the Miller Lake diagrams and proceeding with expanded recreation areas on the eastern side, including the Arenasium and the expanded number of pickleball courts.
Okay. All right, we have a motion. John, any additional? Nope. Okay, all right, all right. Do we have votes? Yes?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
Christie.
And Christie?
Hughes?
I'm a yes also, thank you.
Okay, great. Okay. So to the council or to Miller Lake, we will recommend that they take priority of moving that. And that will open up new recreational facilities. If it turns out to be pickleball, then great.
Sorry, just because there was a confusion, who seconded this motion?
Ted did.
Okay.
Thank you. A great scribe. Great job. Okay, anything else? No other motions? Okay, I know.
And then Caroline.
We may have to have a little break.
Yeah,
first.
Caroline, I mean, we're kind of losing the audience. I'm seeing council people and village managers yawning. I know Richie's got to eat. Just, I met with the staff about these fees. I would like to make a motion and then you guys can pick it apart if we get a second. That my motion will be, if you'll allow it, is to approve what the village staff has come up with one addendum, instead of 65 for seniors, put it to 62. That'd be my only request in the motion. And then so in other words, my motion is to approve it. The village staff has worked on it very hard to approve it the way it is. If we get a second, then we can have discussion just to shorten this meeting up.
Okay, the only thing is, this has not actually been presented.
Right.
It's a piece of paper
Right.
that nobody else has
So-
seen yet.
We're gonna let them go ahead and present it then?
Well,
Yeah,
you haven't
Maria.
had public comment yet, and I think that's something that you should do
Okay.
because all these folks have been here.
Yeah, it's getting
tonight,
late.
So, and then, Annie and I, all the staff worked really hard on this and we need to give it its time and really give the presentation. We just don't want to throw something out there.
Right.
So I think our next meeting, we will just, hopefully just have on the agenda park fees. And that's
Okay.
it.
So
And really
my,
stick to it because it's gonna take time and it's not gonna just take one meeting. It's gonna be a lot of discussion about it. And we like to just take our time with it. We don't want to be rushed with it.
so am I hearing from you then, Maria and staff, that you'd like for us to look at this as a prospective proposal, but that we not take it on as discussion, public comment, and do anything with it tonight?
At this
That
meeting,
this is a proposal of new fees for the park, that we have the opportunity to take home, look at. It can be a matter of
That's fine.
public record. People can look at it. And our next meeting then, which we will determine when that is, this will be our first topic. Is that,
I would
am I-
like it to be the only topic if we can do that.
well, yeah, well,
So the item we've given you is just background, so without, so our next meeting will then have the presentation to further describe and explain what we're proposing here, because it does require some background information.
Yes,
So this isn't
yes.
the end all be all, this is, and we will put it on then for next meeting.
yes, okay.
Mhm.
All right. Is there any discussion from the committee on that? Are you okay about that? I think the request will be
I
that
liked
we
it.
schedule the next meeting, and that it be with as soon as reasonably possible.
Yeah. Good.
So do we have some prospective dates, I think?
Yes, we do.
Okay,
So you want to hear from the
Yeah.
public again? Okay.
So we're gonna
Well,
open
just
public
open it up,
comment.
whoever wants to.
yeah, do you have prospective dates for us?
Oh, wait.
So I thought-
Would you like
Yeah.
to
Dates
open
now?
public comment first and then talk about future dates, or you want to talk about dates now? Which do you prefer?
Do-
We were going to have public comment on the master plan.
On the
On the master plan. So we're
Yes.
still on the topic of the master.
well,
plan.
yeah, I thought we'd had
Just-
public comment on that.
I think we jumped forward, but I think. for
We
the
had
record-
public comment on everything, didn't we? Well, we had public comment already on,
So,
Did you sign up for it though? Sign up to see it?
The agenda was published in advance of this meeting. Everybody walked through the door knowing what the agenda was. If someone chose to devote their public speaking time to something else, that's not our problem.
It is your problem.
And I, excuse
Then you should have spoken on it.
But she just presented like at the last meeting that you had. At the last workshop, the way this, again, the way this was presented, I thought we were gonna listen to what she was presenting, and then we were gonna be able to get some additional public comment, and then you guys were gonna do your thing. I didn't realize, you know, we didn't even get a voice in any of that.
You're bypassing the public, that is the problem.
Well, that goes back to the question I had at the very beginning, which is what was the intention of the presentation and who was expected to do what? So I was unclear about that, and maybe that was my error or a misunderstanding. So if this in fact was, and if the intention was that this is a presentation to us and to the public, that the public, is this the, no? Help me out, because
We had our second workshop. That was for the public. This is a public meeting, but it was addressed to the advisory committee.
I'm sorry, say,
I said we had the second workshop. That was opportunity for the public to speak as well. They did do first comments, maybe the order of the comments. It's up to you guys if you would like to hear additional comments from the presentation. But this presentation was for the committee, for the advisory committee to relook at things because the workshop last time was a bit more hectic as well.
We should have had public comment before the vote then. So why didn't anybody speak up? But you didn't go sign up for public comment. I think that's what his point is. Well, I'm not trying to upset you. I'm just saying it.
No, you said you had to sign it second. This is a public briefing, the public should have some comment.
I agree.
okay,
Just let him talk, Ron. Okay, go ahead.
okay, all right. Then, yeah, okay, and I have a request with respect to our public comment. I have a request that we be very clear that we schedule another meeting for the topic which our staff has brought to us, which is timely needed, and that we have that set up, and I think we've looked at some dates in September, and that will be the first order of business, that you will have adequate time to present it. It will be available for public comment. It will be available for everyone else, because the park fees are something you guys have worked on a lot. We need to move ahead on those just as much as we need to move ahead on these things. So that will be my request in these guidelines. There may be other priorities, but I think that's the first one for the next meeting. So in that case, then we will respect the fact this is a Miller-Lite presentation. We will take public comment. Would you make sure that everybody gets signed up for it? We have our same time limits, and thank you very much.
And I will be brief, Jamie Engel. I want to say thank you. That presentation was great. It was very detailed. I appreciate what you did. I appreciate the motions that were made also, and the forward thinking to try to move it along, because I think it is important. But I will say that personally, I think you need, as a committee and as the village council, I think you really need to sit down and say, these are all great, and it is a master plan, and it's something that you're thinking forward towards, but it has to be broken down into budget times. We need to look at, we need to have, I said it earlier, 3-year, 5-year, 10-year budget. Otherwise, there's no point in talking about this and going through all of it, because if there's no money there to do this, because like you were saying, Doctor, that it's engineering and plans and drawings, it's a lot of money. And if we don't have the money right now, unless our village council plans the money for this great plan that we just watched, it was just a waste of time, pie in the sky. This is our wish list. And I hope a lot of it gets done, especially the main entrance and the residence gate. I think it's great. But I think there really has to be a plan, step 1, step 2, step 3, with dates, with money, and then come back to you guys and say, here's what we think, figure out what you all want, 1, 2, and 3, match it up. And then where's the money coming from and how are we going to come up with it? Because I think that's a lot easier, because I'm sure Maria would love to be able to move her stuff and get some things done. But without the money there, it's all about the money. And so I appreciate what you're doing, but I think everybody's kind of jumping ahead and it just needs, you got to sit down, you got to look at it. And I'll jump and just say for the park entrance fees, I'll jump to that subject. Again, I think I would love to see what those fees are going to be. I have no idea. I don't know how you planned it, but for the entrance fee for the park, I think we go to national parks all the time and it's per car. It's not per person. Because that's really kind of crazy to say $40 for 4 people to drive in the gate or whatever it's going to be. But if you do it by car, it makes it more accessible to people and to guests and to tourists. A lot of tourists, they go to national parks. They're used
Can I
to
just
paying.
ask Jamie, that's the next topic.
Yeah, well, I'm not,
Yeah.
I don't want to stop on that. So I'm
Yep.
just saying to you, it's all, but again, that comes into, it's all about the money. Because if you have more people coming into the park paying that fee, then we have the ability to be able to do some of the projects that you guys are talking about doing. But without the money, you're wasting time, in my opinion, sitting here talking about this because it'll never get done if the money's not there. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks, Jamie.
Hi,
Sandy.
Sandy Baseglia. I've been coming to your meetings for many years and you're all volunteers. God bless you all. I just want to say originally, a couple of years ago, this was a more passive group. There were more, now that there's passive, meaning the urgency was a little bit different. And you did more reports. Now that there's a master plan and you have these decisions that are huge and have implications, before you meet approximately 4 times a year, the equivalent of 1 workday a year. 3 hours today times 4, 10 to 12 hours a year. So you meet about a day and a half a year. But what you're trying to do now is juggle all these very complex things. And if I was up there, here's what I would say. Okay, we heard this wonderful presentation. Everybody go home up there, write down your top 3 things that you think are important. Come back next time. Everybody say their 3 things, rate them on a chart together, and make a decision by consensus as to what you all agree is important, because it's just such a complicated task. I mean, if I heard all this today, I'm not sure I would want to be making motions right away. So, thank you.
Thank you, Sandy. Other public comments on this?
Well, ironically, if you hadn't agreed to listen to the public, you wouldn't hear me say nice things about you. It's going to be pretty rare, so I hope you enjoy it. I admire the thoroughness with which you've done your homework, which is what I used to do on the school board when nobody else was. So that's an admirable piece of work. And for you to separate the issues from one location to the other. And I think the good doctor is correct. This is a nature park. Our plan should not be to commercialize every square foot of it over the years and turn it into a municipal, more of a municipal instead of the nature park that it naturally is, a gift to everybody in this whole part of the Keys. But amongst all your things to do, I hope you accomplish the same thing I did from the very beginning with the baseball diamond, which is nobody's going to chop down a single damn tree in Founders Park, because engineers do tend to do that too sometimes. And I went to engineering school once in a while, so I know how to cut down trees. It just feels bad. Okay, so I hope you express that in somewhere in your deliberations that you pass on, that we need to take care to preserve all of the mature native trees that grow here. That's our gift to the next generation, that do all kinds of creative stuff, marvelous, but don't whack any trees.
Thank you, Captain Ed. Any other public comment? I think we get to be reminded that this is not actually, although, as I understand it, Lumi, right? As I understand it, this presentation was being specifically made to the committee it has already been made to the public. And there have been a number of opportunities for public input. Is that correct? And what we get to remember is we're not deciding anything. We, just as the manager has said, we report to the village council. So we are airing discussion and maybe making suggestions and recommendations, but we're not in a position to say, to get beyond that. But if you would clarify for me and for us, the expectation that will allow you as our contract people to be satisfied that you got what you wanted by coming here. Would you help us with that?
I think you guys had kind of moved forward. It's just to finalize the report, which there will be a report coming up, not a presentation, an actual report, that this would include all the funding options as well. So not just the cost of things, the options that we have of all different ways that this could be actually implemented. So we will move forward with that report. And at the time being, that would be publicly again put on the website, and it would be given as well to council. And then that's another feedback we'll get until eventually we adopt the plan. So this presentation was just to move forward with the elements of the site plan or the conceptual schematic and to be able to finalize that report.
Okay, so this was general acceptance of the schematics of the overview that you presented. So we're not in a position to approve it or disapprove it, where it's being presented to us. And then what we have is a motion that we have passed that has a couple of priorities that are suggestions that are our recommendations that go back to council. Did I say that correctly? Is that what we're? Okay, so you don't really need anything more from us.
I mean, again, if Captain Ed, I know that you send us emails, we've been in connection, Miller Lag as a whole, I know we've heard you and loud and clear. And again, we're always in open communication apart from the workshops. You guys have our emails. There's a website as well. So if you guys have more input, we're always going to accept it up until, we wrap up kind of the report on that. Today was more of, hey, things got kind of sidetracked. I think it's good to meet again with the advisory committee, just to kind of go over the plan. This is publicly again. The plan is on the website, which will be updated again to reflect what we presented today. That's open to the public. There's emails that we could still be heard from residents, and there's still another chance for that.
Okay, and what the next steps are, since we have two recommendations, obviously these are not budgeted. So the first one is when we talk about having an additional entrance, that has not been budgeted. And because we know that the budget has already said, maybe that's not in the budget, and I don't, I may be saying it wrong, but that's going to be a budget issue. And then the second one will be a mechanics issue. Our priority is we'd like to get those things moved. And that can then begin to open up more conversations about what goes in there. If there's realignment of pickleball or parking areas, which we've discussed in the past. Did I say that correctly? Did I summarize that?
Carolyn,
Mhm.
to say anything, but I mean, I didn't realize that we were going to go through kind of make motions and things for things we were interested to see. But my biggest thing is the playground change. So I mean, if I need to make a motion to express our, sincere interest in that moving forward quickly, I can. But yeah, I mean, I like how the playground is going to be moved and all the changes that are happening with that to become more ADA compliant. And
Okay.
I mean, I went to a workshop on the playground and we looked at different designs of equipment and things like that. But yeah, I mean, I think it'll be great. And then I saw the current playground that we have and how, a lot of it's actually really rusty. And so I think that, when we're charging increases for, non-residents coming in here, that's something to consider, the equipment that is here. So for me personally, I'd rather the playground stuff be a higher level or first act more than the resident lane. So, I mean, if I need to make a motion for that, that's fine, I can, but.
Oh, I would suggest, because this has all got to go to council, it's all got to be budgeted, it's all got to be negotiated. I would suggest that the way we do that is that you can certainly move that the prioritizing of the playground area is another high priority.
Okay.
And then we turn those over to have it be discussed, because I don't know that we can say one goes more than the other, but I think if that's a first step priority, I don't think there's any objection to that. Are there comments on any?
Mr. Chairman, that currently isn't the proposed budget.
I'm sorry.
It's already moving forward, we're good.
Yes,
Okay,
yeah, well, yes, as long as the budget is approved.
okay, we'll keep our fingers crossed. Next one.
It's in the proposed budget, yes, it is.
Okay, good. So I'll just
Okay.
express my
Yeah, so-
gratitude and
Okay.
commitment. to
Caroline,
that. Yes.
Just a couple statements. First with Jamie's statement. I can't imagine, I realize we've rolled the council over on a lot of the seats, but I can't imagine them spending all this money on Miller and Legg and then not do anything. And then the other comment is, and I was just kind of thinking about this right now, the highest consistent foot traffic is over there where we're proposing to put an entrance. And that's the foot traffic between the dog park parking and the beach parking. It's just, I mean, I'm over there a lot and it's all the time. So, we're talking about putting an entrance. I just want everybody to think about that too.
Yeah, I'm not sure that we were specific about, I'm not clear.
Well, the entrance over there that was originally earmarked for residents is
Would be
highly
over-
foot traffic area.
From-
If they put a gate where the current location is,
Okay,
over by the firehouse.
okay,
Okay.
Yeah, because it goes by the dog park on one side and the beach on the other.
yep.
And they shouldn't have to.
Valid conversations, and that may be beyond our pay grade. That may be something that those nuances do need to be discussed at the next level. I'm guessing. All right, where are we now?
Are we picking dates finally? What were the dates we had proposed? September?
September 23rd or 24th.
So that's about 4 weeks from now. I think we can't accelerate that. We've got budget issues. There are all kinds of things that are already on the calendar, plus Labor Day weekend. So an acknowledgement to staff for all that you've done for this. This is now a public piece of paper, right? So this can be submitted for people to look at and consider.
But
And then,
it doesn't have the background information.
no,
It needs
no,
to
no, no,
be-
but the point is, people will know at the next meeting that will be the primary topic, and they will have had the opportunity to look at this.
Sure.
Is that correct?
Yes.
And we
Yes.
can't do it any sooner, and we want to acknowledge that you guys have done a lot on this, and we want to get that moved forward. Okay?
I'm good on either day.
Either day. Either. Mm-mm. I can't do that Thursday.
I think it was because Carolyn was available.
Yes.
Anybody else have any
Yeah.
conflicts?
I will stay flexible if there's if there's a consensus date in that week. And that does not work for you, Ted? And you're not available remotely? Thanks, Richie. It's really, totally appreciated. So appreciate a definite maybe. 3 hours into our meeting, I just appreciate it.
Christy, are you still with us?
I'm here, yep. Either one of those days is fine.
Okay.
Okay.
Well, we could send out an email and get
With community.
confirmation. Okay. And then if it doesn't work the one day, then we'll shoot out another
So
day.
we're shooting for the next meeting on the week of 23, 24, 25 September, if we can make that work with as much of the committee as possible. And that will have a primary priority of reviewing all of the information staff has done on entrance fees, and then whatever else we come up with, but that will be the first thing. Anything else? No,
Just, I wouldn't want to leave this meeting without making these comments because there was a non-agenda item that got brought up, and that was largely the artificial turf that we spent 14 pages worth discussing and bringing actual facts into play. And I'm being a hypocrite here because I said to one of our council members that, your meetings go on forever because you respond to pitches, go chasing curveballs in the dirt. But much of this information was just, if not BlackBerry, it was iPhone 1 stuff. Okay. The new infills are not tires, and everything we said last week is true. And the direction that we're going nationally, where all the research is being done, remains true. Everybody's, a great percentage are going in that direction. And the other thing that I would say is we had the opportunity, you were invited to go over and see what the layout would be after the last meeting. And that was a primary reason. And a lot of you took advantage of that. And that may become, maybe that's not important right now, but a secondary thing that happened when you got there is you got to see the grass that we replaced a year ago, December. It was Bermuda. And I should mention too, Jamie, to your point, like who replaces the grass? I've had oversight of every one of those replacements. 100% of it's been done by the school board, and that will continue to be because in section 13 of our interlocal agreement says the billing for all materials and services in construction, renovation or recreational facilities shall be made by the school board. And that remains to be true. Whether it was stated at our meeting there, this is as you read, it's the interlocal agreement. It is the school's responsibility. So I say all that to say, if you looked at that grass and realized how recently that was pristine Bermuda, and saw now how much it's been overtaken by St. Augustine and every other weed in North America, I think that you would understand. Yeah, and the holes and everything else. And the fact that, notwithstanding too, the fact that the ecology will be challenged, the aquifer will be challenged, and it will still take fertilizer and insecticide and pesticides and so forth. So I know a lot of experts have come out of the woodwork on artificial turf. I've been dealing with people directly who are dealing directly with artificial turf for 3+ years. And I mean, these are people actually in the field. They're not Googling and they're not just claiming to be experts. So please keep that in mind. And I so applaud this entire committee for the last meeting, because many of you came here predisposed to voting against artificial turf, and you listened to the facts. You listened to the real facts, and you heard what the iPhone 16 facts are, and that's what we're going to push for, not iPhone 2 or BlackBerry or whatever. Thank you, guys. I appreciate the opportunity to say that.
Thank you, Richie. And I will add that one of the suggestions or requests that I would have in this conversation about artificial versus grass is that maybe not before, in this process, that I believe that we all deserve a complete presentation by perhaps the selected vendor or vendors who would be the ones who would come in with a conversation about the alternative of grass. And that includes safety, that includes water, that includes maintenance, that includes everything. But we need to have this from the actual vendor who's the I-16 or 17 or 18 vendor so that we know exactly what would be contracted for. And that would go through the manager in coordination with the school board. So the public will be in a position to have heard not just hearsay and not all the rest of this, but will have been in a position to hear that and to have the alternatives and the information that would be the alternative if it were real grass. John's got a smile on his face.
I totally agree, Carolyn. We need the facts on both sides, not hearsay from both sides.
Thank you, Richie. Comments? Okay, that's hanging out there then. Okay, I think we can hear a motion to adjourn. Yeah. Thank you, public.
Thank you.